Alright, so for my people at home, what we've done in the classroom, and unfortunately my computer and my camera did not read each other and it registered as 0 bytes, which means no data for the video. I'm redoing it again, but this time is more streamlined. So, we're talking about genetics in class. And for genetics, we have a few things we need to know. First thing though, today we are going to be doing what's called the chicken factory. And yes, I do want you to write this down. This is going to be your notes for today's class. Chicken factory under genetics. Alright, so in genetics, you need to know the father of genetics. Is a guy named Brother, because he was a monk, Gregor Mendel. That is the father of genetics and science. Now you're probably wondering how a religious Catholic monk would even be related to science at all. Well, it was actually kind of a mistake. Different monks have different jobs in the monastery, and Gregor's, or Mendel's, happened to be gardening. And the one plant that he always had to do gardening for, because it's very prolific, it's healthy, it makes a lot of pods and a lot of seeds, and it's easy to grow, was peas. And after growing green peas over years and years and years, and the Mediterranean has a very long growing season, he could actually grow multiple generations of peas in one growing season. He started to see patterns. He saw that there were tall plants, and then suddenly there would be a short plant that would only grow about 2 feet tall, still produce peas. There's nothing wrong with it. It was just short. We had typical green peas when you shelled them, and then if you let them go further on and let them dry, ones you could grow for the next season. But sometimes, occasionally, you would have a yellow pea. And you also looked at flower color and different kinds of things like the pattern on leaves, and he noticed that there were patterns to each generation of peas that he grew. So he started counting, he started keeping records, and he saw that there actually was a pattern between parent plants and the offspring that would grow the next season. He started applying this to other organisms, other plants, and then eventually chickens, which we're going to talk about today. And again, he could calculate a pattern that would happen between parent and offspring. Come in with, of about 100 years after that, actually 80 years after that, Reginald Punnett, a biologist and a mathematician. Mathematician. I had to think there for a moment. Mathematician. So, he actually created what's called the Punnett square. It was a simple 4-frame square to calculate by 25% in each square the percentage of chance that the offspring would have the genes from the parents to show different traits. So let's get some of this vocabulary down. Since we've already talked about cells, we definitely have these dudes. A chromosome. The center of all genetic material, or at least some genetic material. You have to have a pair of them, and one comes from each parent. Now, chromosomes only look like this part of the time. They only look like this right before the cell splits into 2 new cells. usually it's all the big wibbly wobbly ball of genetic stuff. So this is when it's tightly wound. When it's usually in the nucleus, is actually very cloud-like, so it can be read by the cell and duplicated. On these branches of the chromosome, though, there are certain spaces where the genetic code is wound up so tight that once it's open, this will be open and it will be read as a gene. Okay, so a gene, it could be for blue eyes, brown hair, tall, short. Okay, your gene determines one thing about you. And it is part of your genome, which is your complete DNA signature, or your complete, what did I say in class? Your entire genetic pattern, sorry. The human genome has been sequenced. We know where a lot of genes are. We don't know what all of them do just yet. But that's why companies like 23andMe can calculate where you're from, you know, what your mom looked like, what your great-great-great-great-great-grandma looked like, just by looking at your genome, okay, your entire genetic signature. From there, we don't see genes. We definitely can't see our chromosomes. It's way too small. We do have two ways of genes being expressed. The genotype, I'll put bullets beside these, genotype, which is the actual DNA sequence of the gene. Coffee. All right, and then the phenotype, which is the physical showing of the gene. So my phenotype, if you've seen me and you know me, Mrs. Wisnant, I have red hair. Red hair is my phenotype. My genotype, though, is two recessive genes. So a trait would be shown up in your phenotype. So my trait is red hair. Red hair, blue eyes, dark skin, things like that. That's part of your phenotype. Now a trait can either be dominant versus recessive. We'll talk about that in a moment. Actually, we're going to use an example. So dominant versus recessive traits. Please excuse me as I do this number. All right, that was loud. All right, so we're going to look at one of the traits Gregor Mendel looked for and counted for, and it happened to be pea color. You can laugh at that if you need to. Typically, peas are green. This is the dominant one. This is what we see the majority of, and we're going to give it a capital G for green, okay? 99% of peas, green. Occasionally, though, you have a recessive color of yellow. And we're going to spell that with a lowercase y. So this is the dominant gene for green trait, and this is the recessive gene for yellow trait in pea color. Yellow pea. Yes, you can laugh at that. All right. So, using a Punnett square, we're actually going to calculate from one generation to the next what the chances are of pea color being the same as either the parents or being something completely new for the offspring. So we're going to draw a Punnett square. Right here. The top part is going to be Dad. So Dad's genes are going to be up here. Over here is going to be Mom. Mom's genes are going to be on the side. So let's go ahead and give Dad. Dad has green peas, so he has a dominant gene for green peas, but he also has a gene for yellow peas. All his peas are going to be green because whenever there is a dominant gene, it's going to dominate the recessive gene, if there is a recessive gene. So even if I had a gene for blue eyes, which is recessive, my eyes are brown because my other gene is for brown eyes, and brown eyes is dominant. So I'm never going to have blue eyes because I don't have two recessive genes. You have to have two recessive genes for the recessive trait to show. Mom, though, unfortunately for us, is going to have also green peas. Unbeknownst to her, she is also carrying a recessive gene for yellow, though. So this is how Punnett squares work. This gene is going to go into this column, and this gene is going to go into this column. We are simply going to pull it down for Dad. G in the first square, pull it down, G in the second square of the first column. Dad's other gene, excuse me, Dad's other gene is Y, so we're going to pull Y down in the first, and then Y down in the second of the second column only. Stop there. That's what Dad can give in the percentage-wise of the 25%. Mom goes across. Mom's first gene is G, so we're going to put G in the first of the row and G in the second of the row. GG, good game. Y's second gene is also going to go across Y in the first and Y in the second. All right. Each of these three, okay, I have green, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, yellow. For green, 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 more green, big green, GG, it's going to be 100%. Okay? Not 100%, I'm sorry. Wow, I need more coffee. Coffee. That's what happens when you're up watching the game really late at night till midnight. Go Dogs! Alright, green. I'm sorry. For completely dominant green, we have 25%. For green and green that has a recessive yellow, but the yellow is not shown, a mix, we have 50%, because each of these is 25%. Add them together, they both have big G's, so it's still green, but they have a chance to have a yellow granddaughter in there, or grandson. And then yellow, the recessive trait, we actually have a 25% chance that the offspring will show yellow peas. You can laugh at that. All right, so really, putting these together, 75% will be green pea offspring, and 25% have a chance of being yellow pea offspring. If you have any questions of that, you can either email me or Miss Lockhart. I'm sending this video to Miss Lockhart as well. Catch me in the next video for Chicken Factory.